So I had another manifestation come through, and it really caught me by surprise in a number of different ways. And I'm going to tell you the story in just a minute. But the reason why it caught me off guard was it brought me to a place of realizing the importance of keeping joy in between your manifestations, which can be difficult at times, especially if your manifestation isn't coming through right away, if there is a time limit in which you need something to happen. These moments or these areas of limbo is where we can have a lot of self-doubt. We can get angry, we can shame, we can blame instead of taking that time and that moment of dysregulation to support us in bringing new awareness to how we think and choosing a new way to facilitate a positive mindset shift. Now, let me explain. So, this week, I thought it was just going to be a very basic week. I was still doing my affirmations. There was nothing very serious. I was just kind of taking in my new surroundings, planning what supplements I needed, what sleeping routine, what diets, do I need to detox? Do I need to get new clothes? Do I need a new hairstyle? Do I need new makeup? Because I'm starting a new job. And this position is one that is more public than I've been in. I've done at home work for about a year and a half, which is very different. There's a very different flow. So I was just asking myself, okay, what needs to change? What needs to shift? What do I need to do to support myself in this new phase of my life? So by the end of the week, I had made up my mind to get my hair cut because my hair was dead as could be. I dyed it myself, bleached it to be exact. And if you know, especially with curly hair, you know, I mean, heck, anyone who's bleached their hair knows. So it had been almost 2.5 years since I had had my hair cut by someone else. And I thought it was time. I thought, you know what? You just had a manifestation breakthrough. Don't lay into this idea of lack. Treat yourself to a haircut. Go and let someone love on you. And I was able to book one on the fly on Friday the 13th. So I booked it, had an amazing hairstylist. She was such a gem. And I am going to be seeing her regularly so I can treat myself and keep up with that self-care because I want my hair to get longer instead of having this hairstyle that I have currently. When I left the hairstylist, I was feeling really good. I was like, ooh, everything's going my way. How lucky am I? And I look at the bus app and the bus isn't running. So I was like, okay. I was like, don't get negative. Like, what can you do? Can you order an Uber? And I looked at the Ubers and it was definitely a little bit more pricey because it was Friday and also it was the weekend of Valentine's Day. So everything was a little more expensive. And I sat there and I was like, well, you could either catch an Uber or you can go and get some food, treat yourself, and then catch the bus later. And I decided to get some food because I've been craving Taco Bell. I hadn't taken myself out in a really long time. And I also didn't have food at my house. So I was like, let's get food in our belly first, then we'll catch the bus. And while I was at Taco Bell, I realized I had a friend who worked down the road. I texted them. I was like, hey, can I catch a ride with you? Didn't hear back from them. So I was like, okay, then I'll just take the bus. And I ended up looking at the app just to check the time. The app went dead. Sometimes it doesn't load. And so I called and they told me that the bus would be there in 5 minutes. So I pack up the rest of my food, zip everything up, make sure I have everything. And then I sprint over there because I'm on the phone with the girl. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I thought it was going to be another hour at least. She's like, no, the buses, they'll come, they'll go, they'll reappear. She's like, so they'll be there in 5. When I tell you I sprinted. And I was sprinting so fast. Well, not fast, but we were running enough to where my backpack just split open. the zippers weren't zipped properly. Everything opened up. I heard this flopping sound and I could feel my backpack. It just got lighter. So I looked around to see if like I gotten everything. I thought I had picked everything up, zipped up my backpack, and then I ran to the bus. And I made it in time, but it wasn't my bus, and my bus wasn't going to arrive for another 2 hours. So I sat there feeling a little bit frustrated, kind of laughing at myself for how out of shape I was. And then I saw a text from my friend saying, I'll come and pick you up. Waited a little bit. They came and got me and ended up having an amazing night, hanging out with people that I love, played some card games, called it a night. And then I went into my Shabbat, which my Saturdays consist of not being on the phone, not doing work stuff, and I will do my rituals, my energy healings on Saturdays. I do a full physical support scan every Saturday, so I have Sunday to, energetically recover if anything needs to come out. It just sometimes you can be a little bit lethargic after long energy healing days. So I like to do it on Saturday. We'll either do it Friday night or Saturday night or Saturday. And I did it Saturday, and I ended up taking a nap, waking up from this nap and being like, okay, Anna, you need to go to the store, because I knew I was out of food. I was hungry, and I knew I needed to start prepping for the week ahead because I like to meal prep because I take the bus. So having a regiment to support me with greater ease is something that is not only going to serve me having less stress, but it's something that will allow me to have healthier habits. It'll allow me to get into a rhythm that really truly supports me, because not only am I working a new job, I'm also continuing to do my business. I'm just acclimating to these shifts on top of having this manifestation marathon routine. So, and then some. So I get up, get my stuff ready, look through my backpack to find my wallet, and it's gone. My heart drops. When you know something's gone, you look, you start panicking. You're like, holy crap, it's nowhere. I checked everywhere, and I'm like, it fell out of my backpack when I was running. So I called around. Nobody had seen it. And so I just took a breath and I was like, what can you do right now? So I froze all my cards and I sat there and I wanted to get negative. I wanted to blame myself. Well, if you hadn't have called, if you hadn't have run, the bus was late. And I was like, don't you dare get into this negative spiral, because you just had a lot of amazing things happen. You had an amazing Friday. And would you really change it if your wallet was not gone? And I said, no. So I had to really take a pause and see that I was falling into old habits. And so what I did was I was like, okay, we just had a manifestation come through, and, I want to find an affirmation that will support me. And what I came up with is I wrote this on my whiteboard, which is right by the laundry room. I have different whiteboards around the house where I'll write one affirmation a week and look at it. And generally, the affirmations have been tied to this practice just to really have them driven home. But what I felt called to write was, there is no loss in divine mind, therefore, there's only grace. And I just sat there repeating that to myself to help regulate my nervous system and to give me the clarity on how to move through this situation, because the wallet was a bummer. I had some money in there and I could feel myself thinking, oh, I need that money. I need this. I need that. So I sat there and I'm like, okay, what can I do? So I told myself that I would order a new ID, which I did, because I'm like, if this is gone, what can you do to be proactive? I looked through my cards. I'm very wise because I won't put all my cards in a wallet at a time. What I did was I I had enough money to go shopping and to go get groceries. So I sat there. I was like, you can be angry right now or you can be proactive. So I'm like, okay, I already called for my license. I went shopping, did the shopping, and then I just was like, okay, what do I need to do? I went into my affirmation um, meditation, sat there and what came up for me was, why don't you go look? And so when my brother got home, he was like, "Oh, how are you?" I was like, "Good." I was like, "I lost my wallet." He's like, "Oh no, where did that happen?" I told him the whole story. He's like, "That thing is gone." And I was like, "Well, you don't know." And it's funny how whenever these instances, when it comes to manifestations that you desire, people will sow their own doubt into the situation. I sat there instead of getting mad and being like, no, no, it's going to be there. I trust my manifestations. Meh, 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 meh. I just sat there feeling kind and detached. I was like, you know what? I'd rather go check. It's that it can't hurt. He's like, that's true. And so I went the next day, got up on my day off, and then went and walked around, and I could not find the wallet. But what I did find was a lot of amazing people that I got to talk to. I got to chit chat, you know, went to a gym, asked some people about it, and they're like, oh, that's gone. I was like, well, put some prayers up, that I find it. Like, it's just such good energy. And it was matched with this good energy throughout this experience, which is what I really held on to. I was like, even though I could allow this one specific thing to be a downer, I'm going to choose to see the good. And while I was walking around, I went to look for my stuff, and then I went back and grabbed a bag out of my brother's car, and I went to Goodwill, dropped off some clothes. And while I was over there, I sat there and realized that I have enough money to get a new wallet. I wouldn't change anything for the world. I had an amazing Friday night, and I'm very blessed that I can go and purchase a new wallet because some people can't. And that's when I prayed and said, God, I pray that the wallet finds the person that it's supposed to be with, because it was Valentine's Day, or it was the day after Valentine's Day. And I knew there was $20 in there, and it was a nice black leather wallet. And I'm like, how I hope someone finds it and they gift it to their girlfriend. It's in good shape too. And I just was like, I hope someone gets that $20 and they can feed themselves. I pray that it finds who it needs to find. I'm very, very grateful that I have a new wallet, and I just prayed that my new ID would come in time, because I have a trip that needs the the ID for me to travel. So that was more the stress point. I'm like, the wallets can come and go. I need that ID. So I'm grateful that I, was proactive, and I knew that I could really lean into these affirmations to support me getting, from point A to point B, waiting for that ID to come in, and I had really come to peace with the situation. So after I was done shopping, getting some things that I needed for work, I took an Uber back home because the buses were not running. And when I got home, I was just kind of, unpacking, looking at what I wanted to do for the rest of the week. I was starting to prep my food, and I saw that I had a missed call. I looked down, and the voice message said, "Hi, Anna, this is so and so. We found your wallet. Can you give me a call back?" We play a little bit of phone tag. I get the guy on the phone. He's like, "Hi, this is Officer so and so. Is this Anna?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is she." And they were like, a woman found your wallet and she returned it to us. Found it over by Chick-fil-A, which is one of the areas I'd run through. And it was also one of the areas I had looked for my wallet and I didn't see it. So I asked, was this woman homeless? And he was like, yes, yes, she was. I'm like, okay. He's like, are you in town or are you at home? I'm like, I'm at home. He's like, I'll be over in a little bit to drop it off. And I get off the phone and I'm like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I wasn't expecting it. I feel like there's sometimes with manifestations we expect it, and there's other times that it just blows our mind. I think every time it blows my mind, to be honest. And I want to circle back around to the main thing that I talked about, well, having joy in that in between space. This was a very compact experience, but it really paints a perfect picture, because I could have been angry about losing that wallet, but I chose to see how I could be proactive. I chose to see all the beautiful people that supported me through this little journey. I chose to pray that the money would find who needed it. And the woman kept the money, which I'm totally happy for, but she turned my wallet back in. And that's the thing I actually needed. I needed my ID. And so the fact that I got that took away my stress. I was able to just be at ease. And it really set me up for a really good week. And it also set me up for just a greater knowing of, oh my gosh, this stuff really works. If I do the steps, if I keep the joy mentally first before the physical manifestation happens. And what I did was I chose an affirmation that I knew would support me in that moment. I chose proactive steps that could lead me towards a positive outcome for whatever would happen. And then I chose to view it from a place of grace rather than shame. I chose to view it from a place of love and be in that love rather than being angry. And I just keep hearing disrespectful. I feel like it is disrespectful when you get something good and all of a sudden you're like, oh, why is this bad stuff just happen? I had an amazing week, and to fall back into that negative mindset, it is disrespectful. So I'm grateful that I had the tools to navigate this. I'm grateful that I had been doing work prior to this because I'd already had enough manifestation affirmation reps to where I knew how to create an affirmation that would support me in that moment. And I'm grateful that I'd done all the energy healing I had up until that point so that I could have a regulated nervous system. I knew how to continue to support having a regulated nervous system. And I really, really embodied the element of detachment. And so many spiritualists will say the law of detachment or the essence of detachment is what people strive for, especially in the Buddhist communities. And I was detached and very neutral, regardless of what was going on around me. And so when I got that wallet back, I was so grateful. And every time I look at the new wallet, I will be reminded of this experience. And it's very ironic because it matches up with one of the affirmations that come through in the following week, next week, how God is in every lucky item. And to me, that's a new lucky item because I'm going to be reminded of that every time I look at it, how blessed I am, how grateful I am, and how this stuff does work. So if you have been wanting to do affirmation work, this is the year. We're starting a whole new 9-year cycle. Saturn return just happened. So many of the solidified constructs that have socially been intertwined and interwebbed within us are coming loose at this time. So it's an awesome invitation to create something new mentally, which then will allow you to create something different in the physical. But learning how to have that joy while you go through it is key. Because honestly, the second I got that manifestation, it's one single moment. It's a peak, you're there, and then you're done. And then the most part of life is the in-betweens. The starting point, you get to that peak, but it's the in-between. How do you find joy in between the highs and lows? How can you find God's presence in those times where it feels very slim? Your chances seem slim. And I'm saying that because that wallet was dropped by a bus station where most people would not have returned it. And I kept the faith and I kept the joy. And even though a part of me was like, well, if it's gone, it's gone. Okay. I came to acceptance rather than, oh, it's not going to happen. I was like, well, I accept that if this is for my higher good not to have it. Okay. I'll learn this lesson. And the lesson is, how can I find joy and trust that my license will get here in time? My license got here in time and it got a lot faster than I had expected. So this work really, really, really does work. And it really calls upon a mental dexterity, especially. It's so crazy how rigid we are in our society. So to have a mental flexibility and dexterity, it takes time, it takes reps. And it's the main reason why I created the manifestation marathon the way I did. Is 1 week, you have 4 affirmations, you repeat them in the morning and you repeat them at night. and you kind of see, and it's crazy how they all line up with what is happening within that current time. So for me, this experience really drove home the need for joy and how it's so vital and so present to us if we so choose. But it takes, for me, it took this experience to test those bounds, to test that resolve, because I just got one big breakthrough. And like I said, it's easy for people to fall back on their laurels and just fall back into old ways of thinking, of negativity, of shame, of blame, of complaining, of doubting, and all of that stuff. And it really, I had to work at it. I'm not going to be like, oh, so good. It takes a moment of being like, oh, this is the old way I would do things. Okay, what can I choose to do? And do I need to regulate? Okay, if I do, I'll regulate and then I'll go do X, Y, and Z because it will help me, and blah, 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 blah. So there were steps in this process, and it's a very cognizant one. Like, you have to be very aware when you are rewiring. And so all of these actions were a very high quality choice. I'll just say they were done with a lot of intention, a lot of courage, and a lot of emotional support, because I wasn't doing it all on my own. I asked for support from God. I was really just with him, and I'm saying God, infinite spirit, spirit guide, whatever you connect into, I say God. So I was tapping into that, and it really, I found I wasn't doing it alone this time. I welcomed in my spirit guides. I do use spirit guides, the angels. I welcomed in God. I welcomed in all the positive things. I welcomed in the positive people in my life. I welcomed in loving conversations, and I welcomed in others into this experience instead of just closing myself off. So I got joy from not just the end result, but what I was experiencing in between, because of how I was opening up myself up, which is very vulnerable, and it can be very intense at times, especially if you have been hurt. So it was a bit of a dance of going back and forth between the old me and the new me. So this week was a trip, to say the least. And if you have been thinking about doing affirmation work, I highly recommend it, because this year is jam-packed with opportunity. And that opportunity lies in the energy shifts that are taking place. Saturn just went direct on the 17th. We have, or on the 14th, we have the year of the horse that started on the 17th. And we have eclipse season that started on the 17th. There's a lot of shifts that are allowing for the constructs that have been almost welded around us are starting to come loose. They're melting, they're morphing, and almost like putty, you can morph it into what you want it to be, but that takes conscious awareness, it takes conscious choice, and it takes deliberate action. And it's something only you can do. Yes, you can get help, like in my story, but it was me choosing to be present. It was me choosing a new way of thinking. It was also me choosing a new way of being. And I encourage people to do this because it's empowering and it's satisfying. Oh my gosh, really, truly is. And so if you want to join me on this journey, I have all the affirmations listed in the Mindset Magic playlist. I also have my energy healing courses you can explore down below in the resources, just to help you regulate your nervous system. That's the key thing that I've realized on this journey, is if you do not have a regulation practice, a nervous system regulation practice, it could probably be a little bit difficult, or you might not stay on track. So I hope you all have a blessed rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video.